Hey, the last lap is going to be about entertainment, and I'm quite excited about this one because we're going to be looking at entertainment from the legal standpoint. We've spoken about Britney Spears and her conservatorship. Well, we have Esther Wankwo, a.k.a. Baby Lawyer. Woo, woo, woo.
Hello, everyone. Hello,
Baby Lawyer of Max FM, waiting day. You know her. You tell your fans to join in and be part of this. I need the waiting day family. Baby Lawyer is here. Woo, woo, woo. But before we go into what we want to talk about, Baby Lawyer, how did that name come about? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about you.
Okay, so I started out at another firm, which I'm sure you're aware about, when I started out my career.
Okay.
And they wanted a certain name. So I tried using my middle name, which was Adeze, but there was already someone bearing Ada in that particular organization already. So a friend of my husband material now said, "You're a lawyer." And then I was very skinny and tiny.
You were skinny?
So I was like this. And so they used to just call me Baby Lawyer, and then the name stuck.
Stop. But you're no longer a baby now. You're no longer skinny. So couldn't you have moved from baby? Baby girl for life. I like that. You're welcome. It's great to have you. It's great to have you. Yes. Now, Britney Spears, of course. Now, let me just give you a lowdown for those of you who might not know about this. Now, many aspects of Britney Spears' finances and personal life have been controlled by her father and others for the past 13 to 14 years under a form of a legal guardianship called a conservatorship. It was set up in 2008 after the U.S. pop star, known for hits like Oops, I Did It Again, and Toxic, faced a public mental health crisis. Now, let's talk about this. What exactly is a conservatorship? So
a conservatorship is when a person who the court deems unfit, if they are not of sound mind, they don't have the power to control themselves and their thoughts, their dealings, then the court has the power by reason of a plea made by the conservator. So a person around that person could say, "Oh, I want to be this person's conservator because I think that the person is unfit." Now, the person could be a minor, the person could be an older adult, or a person who is of unsound mind, like I said. So the difference, because you mentioned guardianship, now they are intertwined in a way, but there are similarities and there are differences. Okay. So a conservatorship is usually mainly used for older adults or adults. A guardianship is usually for children, or minors. So, but the only difference between this is a conservatorship is in two parts for a person. It could be for the person's estate and finances. Then also the person themselves. So it's in two parts. But a guardianship could be you taking total control to care for that minor or that child or a teenager until when they're of age and sound mind to do so. Man, you study this thing, you be real lawyer, not be just talk. We'll get back to her. But then the singer began behaving erratically in 2007 after her divorce from Kevin Federline was finalized and she lost custody of their two children. Now, a series of public incidents raised concern about her mental welfare, with the star making headlines for shaving her head and hitting a photographer's car with an umbrella. That was a picture of her shaving her head, of course, and then she hit the car. Now, in 2008, she was twice admitted to hospital under a temporary psychiatric assessment ruling, including after an incident in which she allegedly refused to surrender her sons in a standoff involving the police. So, we started seeing this thing now with a conservatorship, right? Wouldn't you need some form of, would the person being conserved, in quotes, wouldn't the person need to give some sort of... The conservatee. Ah, you studied this thing. Wouldn't the conservatee, wouldn't she need to maybe sign off some of her rights or something? Can it be done without the rights of the person, or without the permission of the person, of the conservatee? A conservatorship exists only by the power of the court, meaning the court is the only person that can say, okay, this conservatorship should exist. But it will take a conservator making a plea to the court to say, by reason of these things and these things and these things, you mentioned her divorce with Federline. You mentioned her anger outburst.
Erratic
so her
behavior.
father at that time was her manager, which is James Spears. And he said, "I'm her dad. I think I'm of right to actually stand in as a conservator because a conservatorship can exist by a conservator who could be a family member, a close friend, associate, or even someone who is not known to the said conservatee, who is a professional that can care for such a person.
Wonderful.
So the person can be made a conservator over that said individual.
To you lawyers, how do you do it? She's not reading a script, though. She's not doing as if it's section A, subsection B, and all of that. Hey, but let's get back to what I was saying. Now, in recent court filings, her father's lawyers had said that the conservatorship was necessary to protect Britney in every sense of the word. They said her life was in shambles and she was in physical, emotional, mental, and financial distress. Now, the conservatorship has power over her finances, like she had mentioned, and, of course, her career and all of that. Now, she told the court in June that I want to be able to get married and have a baby. I was told right now in the conservatorship I am not able to get married and have a baby. Now, she also said she was forced to go on tour, made to take medication she didn't want and go into rehab. Wow. All of these, they're still applicable, they're legally, they're allowed under the conservatorship?
So as we speak right now, with Britney's case in the U.S., politicians have taken this as a case study for reforms of guardianship and conservatorship especially, because it gives opportunity for the said conservatee to be exploited. Britney's case, for example, her estate right now is worth over $60 million.
Whoa.
And her father has been in full control of that as her conservator, meaning he gets to call the shot on where she has to be, how she has to act, what she has to be, what she has to do, and what she has to be involved in. These are all the powers of the conservator. There is no legal framework to say this is the limit you can go by as a conservator. The court is saying you can actually control all that concerns this person, their estate, and their finances, but there was no limit to what extent exactly that control exists. That control
existed. Okay, now, moving forward now, what did she have to prove to end that conservatorship? It has ended. What did she need to do by legal standards? Is there anything that the conservatee has to do to prove that, look, I can now handle my finances and my estate and all that myself?
As a legal luminary right now, I would thank Matthew Rosengart, because that's Britney's lawyer. She got him in July. He knows what he's doing. Now, they had to be proved. You know, in September this year, her Controlling Britney Spears came out on Netflix. And it showed a lot of things. It showed how her life was being monitored. There were footages of her in her bedroom. Everything about her personal life being monitored by her father, who was her conservator. Now, by reason of that, her human right is being breached. And Judge Brenda did so well to state in September that that's wrong. You don't do that to a person. This is a woman who is over 30 years. She's a mother. No matter what mistake she has made, which every living human being does, you should actually give room for some things. You can't just be controlling people, like you said, forcing her to take medications, and there was evidence to that. No, you don't do that. So Judge Brenda had to say, well, we're going to see some of it. So they handed over a part of that to John Zabel, who is an accountant, and, you know, managed the estate. And then Jody Montgomery is now the person standing in as a conservator for Britney as a person, not James, her father, anymore.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now let's talk about what next for Britney. Now she will begin a new chapter of her life, including getting married to her fiancé, Sam Asghari, without needing the approval of her conservators. The legal dispute with her father is likely to continue after it ends. However, now she was prepared to press charges against her father in July and all of that. But then conservatorship abuse can involve financially exploiting or imposing excessive, you mentioned that, excessive personal restrictions on someone in your care. Now, this is quite an interesting part. Now, she was given an allowance of $2,000 per week, while her father's salary as conservator was $16,000.
Yep.
Wow, wow, wow. And then she was accused and all that. So moving forward, it has ended. She can now marry. And so the conservator now she has does not have that kind of power her father had.
Because he's just standing in. So he can't actually execute such power or exercise such power actually over her. So she actually, that's why she said after the hearing on the 12th of November on Friday, she was like, what a time to be alive. My best day ever. You know, because she has power to control things. Even the said, you know, acting conservators can't just excessively execute anything or exercise any power
without her consent. Wonderful. Yes. Now, can this be applicable in Nigeria? Can it happen? As the laws on conservatorship, are they universal, or does each country have their own version of such laws?
So the framework for conservatorship is universal. It can be practiced in any country. But the thing is, in Nigeria, it is mostly called, like I said, when it's a child, it's called a guardianship.
Guardianship.
But even for the adults, they'll still say a guardianship, but in truth, it's a conservatorship. Okay. So most people would say, oh, once it involves a will and all, I don't think we do that in Nigeria, but we do. Because once you're taking care of your father, your mother, who is an older person, you know, our elderly ones, who have estate of finances that maybe because they're of unsound mind can't manage, it's actually a conservatorship.
Conservatorship, okay, in some way. But with the entertainment now, the way it is going, now, say for instance, so let's say just someone like Davido now. You know, when you say Davido just start touching now, and someone just come and just say, let me handle his money. In entertainment, do you think that there's a possibility of that kind of thing happening?
Yes, there is. If there's proof that he's really of unsound mind, he can't take care of himself.
It's an example, before he's not. If
he doesn't have the capacity to care for himself, yes, a conservator could be gotten for such an individual.
Thank you so much, Esther Wanko, a.k.a. Baby Lawyer. She did, there's no paper in front of her, there's no script. She broke this down in such a way that I can be a conservator myself as it's going. Mazino has been forming conservatorship, Mazino and Winfrey. But the main person has to be, of course, Chef Anu. Well, just before that, let's feel Brittany as she is. I hope she goes back to making music, by the way.
I think she would.
She would, right?
She would.
Okay. Yeah. All right. They told me as she was, because we've not seen anything very recent. But let's have a feel of Brittany.